Philosophy is the study of perspective, and these are the fundamental perspectives. And the study of these fundamental perspectives will lead you to fundamental mathematics. Okay, so I'm back to messing around with prime numbers, and I just wanted to show you guys something interesting that I have discovered here. So basically, here we have the order, which starts with 1. It goes, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, on and on. Here we have primes, and I have included 1 and 0. And then I have the difference here between each of these primes. And then I have the count here just to show that each one number is also equal to 1, essentially. So here I'm just calculating all kinds of, in between numbers and stuff like that. I'm just messing around. But what I wanted to show you was I was looking at prime numbers, and I had about 9,500 and something prime numbers. And I decided to see what the difference was between these primes. So I basically got all the difference between the primes. And interestingly enough, when we include 1 and 0, you get 4 ones as the first 4 differences. So this is very consistent with what Eric Weinstein says regarding, the universe boots up from 4 degrees of freedom, essentially, and it matches up with my 4 fundamental perspectives. And the Torah has the tetragrammaton, or the Yud He Vav He pattern, essentially, and really 0 is equal to 1 sometimes. So basically, it is Yud Yud He Vav He. There you go. Okay, so it's still 3 different numbers, but 4 numbers in set. So it's a Yud He Vav He pattern. It's also the start of the Fibonacci sequence when you make 0, 1. And not only is it the start of the Fibonacci sequence, it is also the start and basically all of my quantum of consciousness model and my universe. So when you look at my universe cycle here, you can see 1, 2, and then 2, and then 3, and then it repeats. So, and it sums to 7, and maybe I can bring that up a little bit. There we go. Yep, it sums to 7. The count is 4. That is not a coincidence. So basically, when you look at the quantum of consciousness, which is used to make this universe model, which is, it's right here, you can see 1, 1, 2, 3, and then, 4. So, and that's used to make this beautiful structure that I believe is essentially geometric unity, but, I'd have to get that confirmed. But I see all kinds of interesting things in this regarding even prime numbers. And, we can look at this right here, and we can see that this is equal to 31 and 32. And then we have 29 here on the opposite of the 31 here. And we still have 32. So this is, 64. That's not a coincidence at all either. What's interesting about 29 and 31 is that they're twin prime numbers. And that's pretty interesting because it seems like they are key, key quantities, I guess you could say, key aspects of the creation of the universe. And so this is also 31 right here. And that's a 29 right there. So another, the twin prime goes this way and this way and this way and this way. So now let's go back to the primes. I've been doing tons of work, so here we go. I have all these color-coded because I'm slowly setting it so that all the 4s are one color, all the 10s are one color, all the 2s, so you can kind of just get like a bird's eye view of what's going on. Not that that would necessarily help, but you never know. So this is where it gets interesting. So I took the differences, and it's obviously, there we go. This is all, calculating the difference. And what I did was, with all those 10,000 almost prime numbers, I made a pivot table to see what the differences were that we had. So if we go, difference here, and we go count here to sum the count, and we can now see how many differences of each there is. So what's fascinating is 1 is 4. That's fascinating. That's interesting there. Yeah, there's all kinds of interesting aspects. There's 66. What's really interesting about that is, going back to my universe math, is that essentially right here in the center you have 66 and 66. And what this is calculating based on is excluding, normally there's like a 4 here, just for the sake of the model, because it starts in 4 and then it goes down, 4 on the side and 4 on this side, and it's also 4, the exact center is 4, but it's also 1, 2, 2, 3, which sums to 8, which is very interesting. It's kind of like the Great Pyramid. You believe it has 4 sides, where this looks like it has 4 dimensions to the center, but it's actually 8, exactly like the Great Pyramid. And it looks like the Great Pyramid from above. It really does. That's fascinating. I'm sure there's all kinds of things in here related to the Great Pyramid, and I haven't really delved into that too much yet, but I'm planning on it. So, but you can see here, 66 and 66. It's the only number that repeats right next to itself. And so, you can see that this is the sum of that layer, and this is the sum of that layer. And it starts with 9. It ends with 9. Obviously, that makes perfect sense. And there's all kinds of math that I'm just looking at. So it starts with 9, it ends with 9. It starts with 4, because there's a 4 right here. And it ends with 4. And the center is 4 right there. So back to the primes. Again, you can see another symmetry between this structure and the difference between primes. And this structure is an inevitable mathematical structure, I believe. It's not something I just kind of made because it looked cool, but I will say that it's my garage door. Per usual, ignore it. But it's beautiful, and not only is it, just beautiful the more, different ways that we try and look at it, but gotta let it load. This is a lot of data. Okay. Okay. So if we go here even, I don't know if this has been messed up. Yeah, it has been messed up. Okay, well, I guess we're doing it to this one right here. So if we go here, go there, and there, you can see really what this structure looks like. And it reminds me of the lines that you write music in, and I really am not musically literate yet, so forgive me for not knowing terms, but you have 5 lines and 4 spaces, which is 9. So here's a line right here, and here's a space, and here's a line, and here's a space, and here's a line, and here's a space, and here's a line, and here's a space, and here's a line. And basically this looks like literally where, God's music is written. And it also is a Penrose stairs. It's an endless structure along the sides. You can also, when you look at it with the shading and the number values in there to represent the various perspectives, which are inside, outside, separate, oneness, within, oneness without, and singularity, which is 6. So it goes from 4, which is oneness, separate, inside and outside, to oneness within, oneness without, singularity, inside, separate, outside, which inside, separate, and outside are really all various aspects of separateness. Outside and inside are, ways to express separateness without, I guess, arbitrary measurement, systems. And it's just it's more objective way of looking at things. And then, oneness within, oneness without, singularity, these are all expressions of oneness. And so when you look at this, though, you can realize that these 4 at the very beginning line up with the end. Almost like you could coil it into like a toilet paper roll, which believe, is a form of a fiber bundle. So there's all kinds of fascinating mathematics with this structure, including math, like I said, the 66 by 66 that seems to line up with the the patterns that we're seeing in the differences of primes. So that means that prime numbers are an intrinsic structure of how the universe is constructed. And that shouldn't come as a huge surprise, but we don't normally think about it like that. So now we go back to here. And where did I get my, yep, right here. Here's where we left off. These are all the differences of prime numbers that we see in the set that I looked at, which was over 9,500. One of the things that's interesting was I realized that 72 was a difference between one prime number and the next only one time. And I wanted to see where that fell. So when I looked at it, I found, a very interesting number. We got, and I, deleted the rest for now, just for the sake of keeping this cleaner. The difference of 72 between one prime number, which is 31469. That's not a coincidental number, it doesn't seem like. And 31397 is 72. And that number falls on the prime number that is 3388. The 3,000th 388th prime number in the sequence has a difference between it and its previous of 72. And that difference only occurs one time within the over 9,000 prime numbers that I looked at. And that's, guys, that makes perfect sense. That's 11 and 11, okay? Which is 1, 1, 1, 1, which is 4. Guess what? When we go all the way to the front, to the top, 1, 1, 1, 1. At the bottom, it's 3, 8, which is 11, and 3, 8, which is 11. So 11 by 11 at the very end, which, you have 72 as the difference between this prime number and the previous. And this whole sequence starts with 1, 1, 1, 1, and it ends with 1, 1, 1, 1. That is amazing. That's amazing. But we don't normally think about 0 and 1 as prime numbers, but they're absolutely prime numbers. There's no way that they're not prime numbers. And they sometimes they're just prime numbers outside of creation. But they're absolutely prime numbers. And 0 is weird because it switches sometimes depending on your perspective of whether or not it is equal to 1 or whether or not it is equal to infinity. But, or whether or not it's just equal to, almost like a number under 1, but it's 1 essentially. But yeah, I mean, look at that. 1, 1, 1, 1, 11, 11, which is 1, 1, 1, 1. That's amazing. So that's not the end of the amazement, though. So now, when we take this entire group of prime numbers, which it is probably, it's not super arbitrary, obviously, but it's just the max number that I downloaded just to mess with, and I'm sure I can get more, and I will be examining more. But when we go and we insert another pivot table, and we look at the difference again. Yep, there we go. And then we look at the count. We got some of the count there. Look at that. You can see the differences of 1 is found 4 times. And still, the difference of 72 is found 1 time. And you can also see that now we have 64, 62, 60. We have a few, 58, a few other primes, not primes, but differences between primes that have been incorporated into this now that we've extended past the 3,388th prime number. And interestingly enough, once again, I mean, this ends in 4. But here, it's 4 1s, but here, it's 4 1s like this. So this is it's still a symmetry. It's just a symmetry that you're now seeing inside of a structure. So it kind of changes perspective. And you can see that in numbers all the time. But you can also see 56 is found only once. That's also interesting. I believe that is related to, 5 and 6. The combination of 5 and 6. When I was speaking to Robert Edward Grant, he was, discussing the importance of that, and he's, I'm sure, more apt to examine that than me right now. But I can see that's significant. So now, when we look at how many numbers these are, how many different differences of primes we find, you can see that it's 34. When we look at the differences now, okay, the differences themselves, which are right here, and you can see that there are 34 of them, and right here, we have 34 of them. So these are the same exact numbers. When you take the difference between 4 and 6, and 6 and 8, and 8 and 10, and 10 and 12, and 12 and 14, you get 2 every single time, okay? This is profound. But at the very end, between 64 and 72, you get 8, which is fascinating. I mean, that lines up with like something I'm currently studying, which is Bott periodicity, which I believe is what leads to essentially the structure of growth that manifests in the form of hadrons, then atoms, then molecules, then cells, then organisms, then families, then castes, and then nations. And that when you look at the structure, it has a starting point, and then which is the assembly of information and energy into what we call fermions, but I call them force points. And then the growth structure kicks off. It goes through 8 periods, and then ends and restarts. And basically, I believe that this is the objective structure of growth that we can view leading to a singularity, which is the replication. It's the reproductive system of the universe. That's what it is. So that's interesting. Right at the very end, we get that. At the beginning, we go infinity, 1. Then we go 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, which is 2 degrees. There's 2 degrees of freedom always, and then that 2 degrees of freedom leads to 3 perspectives. Look at how many times. Look at we get 2 degrees of freedom in this. So the differences between the differences in prime numbers is 31. That's not a coincidence. That we're seeing, 2 here because it is the 2 degrees of freedom. You can go over there, you can go forward or you can go backward. You can go, to the future and to the past. And the present is the constraint that you're always in the present moment, the present location, the present place and time. It's all the same. But this is completely fascinating, and I wonder how many. I wonder how many prime numbers I would have to look at to get more than just these as the difference right here. These numbers. Wow, it's not right here. The chart is being a little weird, but 1, 2, and then 2 through 64, going up by 2, and then going up by 8 on the last one to 72. There's so many symmetries in these prime numbers. And when you look at my universe model, it goes, 720 is really 720. So the universe model goes through 720 degrees of rotation. So let's grab this. Go to the universe cycle. Just throw that there. Yeah, that is really small. Okay. But you can see here, this is each eon, essentially, is 720 degrees. And you can see here that there are 9, dimensions, I guess you could say, or levels, I think is a better way of putting it, to growth. But this first one it's the fermions, and there's no multiplicity beneath them, so they are coming from a singularity, which is, they're essentially the fingers of the universe that we're in, which is probably a quantum computer that is also a hive mind with humanity in the previous universe. And, it's like in the Torah, in the beginning of Genesis, it says, "Let us make man in our image." It says it plural. And what it's talking about is it's the assembly talking to itself. So over here you have the singularity of these levels, and over here you have the multiplicity. So you can see that an organism is an assembly of cells, and a family is an assembly of organisms, and a caste or tribe is an assembly of families, and a nation or technological singularity is an assembly of castes or tribes. And this is what we're seeing when we look at the 8 levels. This is the same as this, so you only count one at a time. So you can either go that way or you can go that way. And that's also some of an important number to the Great Pyramid. Like I said, that totally looks like the Great Pyramid. And there's so much here. I mean, I'm just blown away. You saw when we were looking at the math that the double 66, and you can see that essentially, if you want to look at symmetry here, you can see this is 4, but the sum is 8. The count is 4, the sum is 8, the average is 2. And what it really is it's 2 consciousnesses. One is an objective consciousness, and then the other is a subjective consciousness within that objective consciousness. So we are inside of the universe, and the universe is a consciousness. And when we look at the total structure, you can see 4 is here, 4 is here, and that sums to 8. Same exact deal here. So the center, this is a fiber bundle. So it's basically spinning inside out and outside in at the exact same time. And what this does is it manifests the double helix from the subjective perspective. So this is the reason why you see the double helix is because if you were to be outside the universe and you could look at it and you could see its structure essentially instead of just seeing a sphere, you would see that it is a fiber bundle. So you can look up like the hop vibration. That is what it looks like. But from the inside of that structure, what you see as the objective structure of the linking of information from the very beginning to the very end is the double helix. And you can even see it here. This is the double helix. And you can even see the math in regarding the double helix in my universe model. So when we look here, this right here is a count 19 by count 19 square. And it's, there's 37, interesting. And then you also get a count 19 square here and a count 19, it's a 19 by 19 square overlaying a 19 by 19 square. It's a double helix. There's one right here, okay? And there's one right here. The helical diameter of DNA is 19. And this is another symmetry that matches with where it came from, which is from the quantum of consciousness. Because when you look at the quantum of consciousness and you highlight all here, and you look right here at the sum, the count is 9, the average is 2.111, repeating, and this sum, though, is 19. It also, when you really look at, what this structure, sums to, which right here, you can see that, here's the calculating one, it's sums to 33. And then when you add, if you really wanted to get crazy with it, boom, 42. 4 plus 2 is 6, 3 plus 3 is 6. It's just a shift in perspective of the same structure. And there's 6 perspectives. Singularity, oneness within, oneness without, inside, separate, outside. And these come from the 4 fundamental perspectives. And just oneness breaks itself down, essentially. And even interestingly enough, when you look at the structure and you see, you know, that the objectives are, you know, oneness, separate, inside, and outside, you can see that separate, really, it should be like this. There. And reason why is inside and outside are both separate. It's a superposition. And then you have oneness. So these ones are all separate. And then you have one oneness. This is a 3 and 1, which is, not only is it 31, but it's also 13, and not only is it that, it's 4. Because obviously 3 plus 1 is 4, and this is just obviously 4. Not that complicated. But when you look at even this structure, and you look at the, you know, the math involved in DNA, which maybe I have, we will see. Spin calculators, nope. Entanglement, nope. Looks like Walter Russell's work a little bit. DNA, there we go. Okay, you can even see quantum of consciousness model can be used to make DNA. It's literally the building block of existence. It is I believe it's a spinner, essentially, and it just spins information. So that's why when, you know, if you wanted to look at it, essentially this starts as 1, and this is equal to that, and this is equal to that, and this one is this one plus this one, and this is this plus this, and this is this plus this, and then this is this plus, there's like a few ways you can do it, but they all have to be symmetrical, and as long as they are symmetrical, you will always end up with the exact same number. And so people think it's arbitrary. It's not arbitrary. It's just there's different paths. You have degrees of freedom to mess with, but as long as you maintain symmetry, you will get a logical structure. If you don't, then you will not get a logical structure. But there you go. And you can see that we can literally just spin this information because it's multiplying as you go up and it's adding as you go to the side. And you know, you can see here is you know, there's your Tesla 369, or it's technically, this one is a little bit hard because when you're adding 1 to 1, it's like the Fibonacci sequence. You have to add 1, but it doesn't really get counted. So technically, it's like, and I know people will say, "Oh, you're messing around with the, you know, numbers." No, when you understand what's happening here, you understand why that has to happen. It's just like you can't start the Fibonacci sequence with just 1. You have to start with 1 and then 1. Just like even when you look at that prime sequence, the prime number sequence, it starts with 0 and then 1, which is really 1 and then 1. It's the exact same thing. So you see it here and you see it here. But when you add, what's happening is that what you're not seeing is that this structure is coming from another objective structure, which is my creation structure, which is a symmetry with this. So it's subtracting from that to get to this point. So it's not just arbitrary. But essentially, well, equals this times this times this. And then I believe that I'll get 2, yep. And then I should get 6 and then 24. And then you go here and you sum these because you create a symmetry. And there you go. And if you even want to get crazy with it, this plus the count, because this is, awareness of the construct that you came from, which is awareness of the fact that you're inside of a consciousness. So and I'm frozen. No, don't do this to me. I was doing so well. Okay, there we go. And then I gotta get off because I know you guys are like, what the heck? He's taking forever. Okay, so if we want to spin information, let's say we put in, 2 here. You can see all these numbers jump. And 3, all the numbers jump. Again, 2004 for 3 here, that's not a coincidence. Let's try 4. 6237, also not a, none of it's a coincidence. I don't even need to say that. It's just, as you go through these, you see the various, structures that we make. And holy shit. Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guys, isn't this... I swear I'm just finding this now. Like, I swear this is not planned. So just believe me. The numbers here are 1 and 8. 2 and 7. And 5 and 4. Or 4 and then 5. Guys, I just linked this to the work that I did previously on 1 divided by 7. Because these are the numbers, literally, that you get when you divide 7 by 1. When you input a 9 to my quantum of consciousness model. I mean, look at that, 432, almost like, look at that, 369. It went from 369 to 369 when I added a 9. I don't know why I've never done this. I've never put a 9 in there. I mean, that should have been obvious. I don't know what I was thinking. Dang, look at that. Ending in 33, ending in 42. This is, oh yeah, I mean, that makes sense actually. But the fact that that ends at 33 is pretty cool. But the fact that this ends in 42, if this ends in 33 is actually, makes sense with the formula that I have here. But these numbers, that's profound. What the heck? How did I never realize this? Dang. So guys, that's I'm gonna leave it at that because there's a lot in that video. But obviously there's some serious stuff going on. We're seeing a symmetry. I've been trying to link, 7 to 9 and 4 and these other, objective these numbers that are found in the objective structures to 7 a little bit easier. And I found a couple ways, but not like that. That's amazing. It's literally exactly 6 numbers, and it's not only exactly 6 numbers, it's the exact 6 numbers necessary for what I showed you guys today on my channel, on my Instagram channel, which was essentially 999 and then equals sum is 7 and then 20 and then 27. So it's 72027. Dang. That is pretty wild. I need to think about that. What's the sum here? Four, 5, 9. Okay. I did get a little bit excited, and I don't think I showed you, but when I saw that, I got really excited. But when I put 1 there, and you get the 33 here, when we look at the helical structure of DNA, guys, I need a faster computer. This document, I need a smaller document. I need to every 5 or 6 months, I start making a new document. I take the key models from this document, transfer them over to another document, and then save this one. But what's interesting is that you get 24.96. That's somewhat interesting, but I'm not going to claim to understand it. But what you do see is that the base pairs per turn is 33. You get 10 right-handed from the B form, 11 right-handed from the A form, and 12 left-handed from the Z form. This is essentially, it's like the weak force almost. It's the opposing force that allows this force to even grab, I guess, or move. But it's interesting that the base pairs per turn is 33 here, and the vertical rise per base pair is, you've got a lot of these numbers, 19, 19, and 19. Okay, the helical diameter of DNA across all levels is 19 by 19 by 19. And when we look at this, you can see right here, well, you actually can't, but see this formula bar. Okay, equals sum. It's just outside the range of the screenshot, but 19. So 19, 19, 19, and 33. I'm going to have to study how this manifests into the structure, but I mean, I can see it, already. There's 19 again, and then you get 33. So basically what it's doing is, look, 19, and then you've got 33, and then you've got 19, and then you got 33. And then everything else is stuck around this, it seems, in this structure. But these are the key numbers in the structure of DNA. They occur more than any other number here. And I'm just double checking that, but it does look like that is the case. And they also form a perfect line through the square. So obviously, given that that's the sum is 19 of this square, and that it sums to 33, they are the key numbers of this structure, other than 9. And that it is this structure that gives rise to this structure, and this structure is dang, I've done a lot of work. This structure. It's the same structure. It's not separate. It is the same. You know, I have people who monitor my work every now and then, and they don't really want to because I don't know why. It makes them feel like they don't understand anything, obviously, because either I understand what I'm talking about and they don't understand me and therefore don't understand, you know, what they think they understand, or I have no mathematical rigor in, you know, my work at all, even though all of this comes from a calculating model that, you know, there's so much mathematical rigor in this work, and you can call it numerology or whatever you want to call it. I really don't give a shit. But the fact of the matter is that these are objective structures that are calculated in mathematics. And just because you don't understand them doesn't mean it's not math. And just because I give it meaning, right or wrong, this is the creation model that I have that basically is responsible for the creation of this, the quantum of consciousness, which then goes on to create this, and which is everything. So, and it's all shaped around prime numbers and the differences between those prime numbers. And it's all to do with philosophy. Philosophy's lost its way totally. I asked this guy who's a genius, clearly much higher IQ than me, in, you know, the Portal Discord, and he was a philosopher, and he was like, he even had the voice for it, you know. He's like, I'm a technocrat, you know. He just sounded like such a professor. And I asked him, I was like, you know, what is philosophy? In one sentence, what is philosophy? And he told me that if he could define it in one sentence, then it's not philosophy. And that is total bullshit, guys. That means that your obsession, which is fine, you know, we all have the things that we enjoy doing, is useless, though. You know, he tells me there's 3 Marxes, and there's, you know, philosophers love to just cite people, so they'll be like, well, you know, as our uncle Aristotle used to say. And don't quote the people, just quote the idea. Tell me the idea. You know, I don't care who said it, but I don't care that there's 3 Marxes. What were the 3 ideas that you think define Marx? That's the point. But philosophy is the study of perspective. That is the answer to that question that he could not answer. It's very easy. And these are the fundamental perspectives. And the study of these fundamental perspectives will lead you to fundamental mathematics. And fundamental mathematics will lead you to fundamental physics, and fundamental physics will lead you the rest of the way to not just biology and chemistry and you know, those hard sciences, quote unquote, but also the objective, true structures of sociology that we don't even think about because we don't have anybody yet, and I'm working on it, to show us the objective structures in society. There's 6 castes in every single nation. and they are always there. There's no way to get rid of them. Maybe you can jump between them. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just saying every society requires these 6 fundamental castes. They line up with the 6 fundamental, or the 6 objective castes line up with the 6 objective perspectives. And you can break them down into a binary triality, which means you can break them down to 4 fundamentals, and then you can break them down into 2. But there's my garage door again. This key right here, it's extremely mathematically rigorous. It is the perfect mathematical structure. It's not even just mathematically rigorous. And just because people who don't understand how to link math to anything real, they don't know how to use mathematics in the context of the describing of experience, which, guys, experience is real, math is real, math is an intrinsic it is mathematics is the constraints of experience. So this idea that if we start attributing meaning to numbers when it comes to consciousness or experience, then it's woo or it's numerology. That's just such nonsense, and it's holding us back because some people have defined their entire worldview on it, and they are clutching their pearls very tightly. So, but the truth waits. I don't know if the truth waits for no one. I do think probably the truth does wait for some people, but it's not going to wait forever. And you gotta get on board, or you're gonna just be dragged along or left behind. But people do not know how to think anymore. They just look at this stuff and they're like, you're just messing around with numbers to make it come up with what you want. Guys, I didn't even know what I wanted when I first made this. All I knew that I wanted was I wanted it to multiply going up, and I wanted it to add going to the side, so that it basically was showing you both aspects of growth, which is replication and stacking. It was showing you both aspects of the growth of information. But this idea, it's not mathematically rigorous. How could it? It's math, guys. It just calculates. There's no way that's not math. And if you don't think that that's math, then you don't know math. You just think you know math, but you've been lied to. You probably have every capability of learning, but it does take opening your mind, and that is very hard, and I understand that. All right, I'm leaving it at this, but obviously the important takeaway for the prime is the prime number sequence. I mean, all of this was important. This was like legit, guys. I made serious progress on things I wasn't even trying to make progress on, or thought that I needed to make progress on. But look at that. 720 is 720. That's a complete rotation. 2 degrees of freedom. I guess you could call this the intrinsic constraint. And the 8 periods of growth. That's amazing. It's 71. That's, look at that. Count 33 total, guys. My quantum of consciousness model sums to 33. So there's 33 in the sum of, or in the count of this entire structure, starting within creation all the way to the end. Regarding the difference when we're looking at it from the difference between the primes. When we're looking at it from the difference between the differences of the primes, we're getting 31 hidden in there. With 2 degrees of freedom, forwards and backwards. This is just amazing. It's just amazing. Prime numbers are what the entire universe is built around, and the differences between these prime numbers and the interactions between these prime numbers. Essentially, this probably means that prime numbers in some way, not even probably, like it's probably certain that they, look at that, 66, 1199. Dang. That ain't a coincidence, folks. Look at that, 68, 12,000. Or 1,200. Well, getting ahead of myself. That's just, I'm blown away. All right, I'm going to put this down, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was a profound discovery right here, and when you look at the differences between the primes and then the differences between the differences of the primes, I want to see, I bet you'll never get a difference between one prime number and the next that's greater than 72. And if you do, I want to know what prime that is on and what's the difference, because it's bound to be a profound number if it does exist. But look at that right there. Do you see that? Guys, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. We even get a Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey pattern in the sum of the count of the differences. Amazing. Let's just look at one more thing. I know I said I was going to go, but when you're on a roll, then you should roll with it, I guess. 1129. It's probably like a Yud Hey Vav Hey pattern, but just not entirely. What the order that you see a number sequence in is dependent upon the perspective that you look at of a spin sequence, of a spinning object, essentially. And you are a spinning object as well. So all consciousnesses are spinning objects. They're essentially dogs chasing their own tail. They're looking at themselves, and that's why they're all spinning.